Hi, my name is Kel and I'm a therapist and educator with a special interest in eating disorders. Come on in, take a seat, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe for bite-sized content across the mental health and eating disorder spectrum. In today's video, I'm going to be answering a question left in the comment section of a previous video by a viewer who wanted to know whether or not it's possible for somebody who has been struggling with an eating disorder for many years to recover. The simple answer to this question, and the one that I guess I want to start this video with, is that it is absolutely possible for somebody with a long duration of eating disorder illness to recover from that which they're struggling with. I, over the years, have worked with many people with many different eating disorder journey experiences. People who maybe have had an illness duration of less than 6 months, and people who have had an illness duration of 20, 30 plus years. And many of those individuals have been able to have great success in moving into eating disorder recovery. But as you might be guessing, as is always the case with the topics on this channel, it is a little bit more of a complex question than that, because there are many reasons why a person might not yet have found eating disorder recovery despite experiencing an eating disorder. So let me try and break this down a little bit and think about some factors that might be relevant here. I suppose my first question might be, has the person that we're thinking about actually sought help for their eating disorder, or have they been struggling in silence? One thing that I've become increasingly conscious of the longer I've spent in my therapy practice is that there are many individuals out there who aren't even aware that what they're struggling with is an eating disorder or is something that they could seek help for and recover from, and therefore they simply don't help seek. Recovering from an eating disorder on your own without some support at least is really, really difficult, and that's not to say it's impossible, but it's going to be significantly more likely that somebody is able to move towards recovery if they're accessing some appropriate support. So this might be a factor in why somebody has spent many decades struggling and not yet found their way into eating disorder recovery. Another factor might be the type of help that they have had if they have sought a diagnosis and or care and support. There are quite a variety of therapy modalities that are available for individuals affected by eating disorders. You might have heard terms like CBT or schema therapy or eating disorder interpersonal psychotherapy, and these are all different options, and dependent on the service available to the person, dependent on the service local to the person, is going to depend on the type of treatment that they had access to. Now, we unfortunately don't have a type of therapy for those affected by eating disorders or an otherwise type of treatment such as medication that guarantees that an individual will recover, that has a 100% success rate. In fact, the best we have in most instances is unfortunately around about 50% success rate in trials of any given type of therapy. And I don't think that this means that only half of those affected by eating disorders are able to achieve some degree of or actual complete recovery from their eating disorder, but that perhaps different types of therapy are best suited to different people's needs, and potentially for some individuals they might need over a period of time a collection of different approaches to bring together the tools and techniques that are helpful to them from each of them to create their own system and journey towards eating disorder recovery. So it could be that the person that we're talking about has only accessed certain types of eating disorder support, and those types of support may not have met their individual need at that time or at all. And one of the things that I often say to loved ones or those living with eating disorders is that if the type of treatment that you have tried hasn't worked, please go and try something else. And that would even apply to clients that I'm working with, because I'm not going to be offering the right type of support for everybody that approaches me seeking therapy for their eating disorder. And that doesn't mean that I'm not doing a good job or that I'm doing something wrong, but it might just mean that me and that specific client aren't a good fit, either at all or at this moment in time, in terms of what their needs are. So it could be that this therapy that this person has accessed has not met their needs yet. It could be that unfortunately they've had challenging or unhelpful experiences of therapy because potentially the type of therapy or treatment wasn't a good fit, or potentially because of the professional that they crossed paths with. I've heard, sadly, over the years, quite a number of times, statements such as, I was told by a doctor, a psychiatrist, a therapist, that I was not going to be able to recover from my eating disorder, or that this is something that I'm going to have to manage for the rest of my life, is quite a commonly said statement. And those types of experiences with professionals, of course, are going to leave an individual feeling pretty hopeless about what it is they're experiencing, going to leave them thinking this isn't something I can recover from. And I really firmly believe that hope plays an important part in the journey towards eating disorder recovery, in terms of being motivated and in terms of feeling like it's possible. And so if a professional is saying to you it's not possible, I think there's a significantly higher chance of that individual not achieving recovery from their eating disorder within the confines of the support available from that person. It might also be that the relationship with the professional that you were working with just wasn't what you needed, and their communication style wasn't what you needed, and that didn't feel helpful, and that left you feeling stuck and unable to move forward as well. It doesn't have to kind of be as proactively negative as them saying something actively unhelpful, but it could just be that your communication styles don't fit. So not only do you need a type of therapy, support or treatment that could work for any given person, but you also need it to be delivered by somebody who they feel comfortable and able to communicate and work with in a productive way. And so that could be a factor in why a person so far has not recovered from their eating disorder despite years of struggling. As an aside, I think a question that I maybe should add in here, or a point I should add in here to this question, is, does the person want to recover as well? And maybe this point should have gone at the beginning, but does the person want to recover? Because it's easy for us as professionals, or us as carers or loved ones or friends of somebody affected by an eating disorder, to think, well, if they're struggling and treatment is possible, of course they want to recover from their eating disorder, right? But I have met many people over the years that, for whatever reason, for many reasons, at that given moment in time might not yet feel ready to work on themselves, to work on eating disorder recovery, or to give up this coping mechanism that's helping them deal with their life. It could be that the right type of support and the right type of professional can help them move through and past that and continue on the recovery journey. But it could also be that it really doesn't matter what type of support we offer at this moment. The person just doesn't feel ready. And as sad as the outcome of that has the potential to be, I think that we do also, in some circumstances, have to respect a person's wishes to not access care, treatment, support, recovery that's available to them. The only caveat to that would obviously be if the person was very medically compromised by their eating disorder. Certainly here in the UK, if a person is very significantly medically compromised, or is very emotionally distressed and not able to make informed decisions about their own care, then they might end up being sectioned and taken into an inpatient, hospital-based setting to have care for their mental health. And in that type of instance, a person might be forced to access care. And again, some people do talk favourably further down their journey of having experienced that as in some way helpful and positive, and in other instances, unfortunately, it can be quite a traumatic experience for people, and it can create barriers to accessing care and support in the future because the person felt forced to engage with the recovery journey when they weren't ready. So for me as a therapist, one of the questions I often ask clients who maybe have come to therapy because their parents or their partner have brought them to therapy is this actually what you want? Are you ready to do this? If not, maybe we can work around that a little bit. And if the answer is still no, then I'm absolutely not going to force somebody to sit in a chair opposite me and work towards eating disorder recovery if they don't feel willing or able to engage with that. So let's assume that the person that we're potentially talking about has accessed some types of therapy and support that are helpful to them, and they are ready and willing to engage in the therapy process and have a good working relationship with the professionals that are surrounding them. What about in that instance? Can that person that is still struggling for a couple of decades recover from their eating disorder? I think that's possible too. My take on while that situation might happen and a person might still be struggling is often that there is an issue with the ongoing motivation and maintenance of kind of steps forward on the recovery journey. And it's our job collectively as a team, the professionals and the individual affected, to figure out how we can build into that person's life motivation to keep moving forward on a day-to-day basis. Eating disorder recovery is not an easy thing. In all reality, as the person takes some of the first steps into eating disorder recovery and starts to challenge the thoughts that they're experiencing and starts to engage in healthier ways with food and their body, their level of distress actually can grow. And if an individual hasn't been appropriately psychoeducated, supported to understand that that might happen, that can sometimes be an issue in terms of staying motivated. But so too can including in the environment and in the support system available enough support that speaks to that individual to keep them going on a day-by-day, moment-by-moment basis. And no two people with an eating disorder are the same. So what might help one person isn't the same as what's going to help another person. Of course, I have in my time working found myself with those who didn't find my support helpful for them and had access to other types of treatment and not found that helpful as well. I hope very deeply that that means that they were able to go on from therapy with me with the message that absolutely recovery is possible, but it needs to speak to you as an individual to create the support that they needed. One of the issues, I think, with standardised eating disorder care is that it sends a message that if this hasn't worked for you, recovery might not be possible, and that's really demotivating and might prevent somebody from accessing different types of support as well. So all of this together is quite a complex crochet of factors and things that we might need to think about in terms of why might somebody a few years or even a few decades down their journey still be struggling with an eating disorder, and how can we create a system of support that's going to enable them to move forward into recovery, because I firmly believe that recovery from an eating disorder is absolutely possible for anybody. I hope that this fills you with some hope and that it addressed your question. If you'd like me to expand on this in any way, absolutely feel free to leave some more thoughts and questions in the comments section below. I'd really appreciate it if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, and if you liked this video, maybe give it a thumbs up or share it with somebody else. The YouTube algorithm relies on you, the viewers, sharing and engaging with the content that I create here to decide whether or not it's important or interesting, and therefore whether or not they share it with other people. So all of your engagement on my videos is really appreciated. Until next time, be kind, be curious, be yourself.